How much can you save in a year if you're earning $35 an hour in New Zealand? I went out and asked a number of people this, and a lot of people gave me their different breakdowns of their budget, and loosely, I think it might be around $15,000. So the question that I was posing to everybody is it worth swapping a year of your life working to be left with $15,000 to show for it at the end of it? Now, we have to unpack this. So what I did was I started with that amount, and of course, these are all sort of numbers that could be manipulated based on how many hours people work, and those types of different things that people have in their life. But let's run the numbers on someone earning $35 an hour trying to get ahead in New Zealand. So full-time, annual income, roughly $72,800. $35 last year, I think June quarter, was sort of the median wage in New Zealand. And that means half of people are earning less than that, half of people earning more. But I just picked that as a figure. Now, after tax, ACC, KiwiSaver of 3%, you're left with roughly $55,000 with take-home pay. So, you know, you've already sort of spent $17,000 of your total income on taxes, ACC, and KiwiSaver. Now, of course, hopefully that KiwiSaver is going to go and grow, and you're going to get that match from your employer as well. But this is the real cost that one person shared with me. It's a good starting point, right? They're 29, they're single, no kids, and they're flatting at 29, right? Flatting, single, no kids, and they actually said to me, I didn't want to live with other people, so they share a place with their sister, I believe. So rent for them is $350. Instantly, oh, who pays $350 for rent? This isn't about your situation. Chill out in the comments there, but this is just somebody's situation, and everybody's is going to be different. $350 a week for rent, food $150, fuel $45 a week, insurance, car, contents, and health around $60 a week, CrossFit $50 per week, and power $60 per week. Now that total is around $715 per week, or $37,200. So on paper they've got a take-home pay of roughly $55,000 less $37,200. That leaves them with $17,800. That's a snowball that they've got left, capital that they could allocate to something to see what that might turn into in the future. Now, for me, I looked at that budget and I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that's missing out of here. So realistically, you know, they'd be lucky to save around $15K per year, because there's some missing costs in there like the dentist, medical, car repairs, servicing, tyres, registration, Warren Fitness, clothing, gifts, travel, weddings, subscriptions, eating out, entertainment, going to a gig, having a couple of too many beers, needing a late night Uber on the surge charges, you know what I mean. So to save 17 and a bit thousand, I think is probably being too nice. So roughly from what people were emailing me and sending in to me, I thought, you know, if you're saving 12 to 15K per year on that level of income, it's bloody solid, and it's probably about like realistic. Now, let's be honest about New Zealand though. There's a couple of issues in here, and number one is that you can't really afford emergencies at this rate. If you get a big emergency, you're going to be frustrated by the cost of that. And that could be a vehicle, it could be a tooth, whatever it may be. You know, someone in your family, something happening, you've got to fly to them quickly, even going overseas, whatever it could be. Like you could unwind that 15,000 if we're going to land on that figure pretty quickly. So then the second piece I think is that you're not going to want houses to be running away on you too far, are you? Now, I am looking at a post that I did about this to get other people's feedback on this, hence why I keep looking away. But I am with you, don't worry, I am here with you. So major car problems can wipe out a big chunk of it. And you know, house prices, let's just say then, if you've got a $600,000 house, or if there's a $600,000 house that you wanted to buy, and it increases by 5%, that's a $30,000 increase. Now, we haven't seen that with property recently, but you know, people would argue all the time that it's very easy for house prices to go up to by over 5% in a year. In some regions in New Zealand, they have recently. But what I'm trying to highlight there is that, you know, that is growing faster than your ability to probably save for that same property that you would like to buy, and that's a $600,000 house. you know? So you're gonna be pissed off. If you're working a whole year and you can save 15K, plus you got some KiwiSaver, it's getting matched, and then your house that you're looking for has gone up by $30,000, you're probably thinking, well, this just feels broken. And I think this is part of why young people are choosing to leave New Zealand, because a lot of younger people have left, and the median age of those who have left for Australia recently is in their 20s. So it's not people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s. They don't seem to have the problems. It seems to be the people in the 20s that are going, this isn't really for me. Now, a reminder too, you're going to get blasted at that age by multiple media articles monthly about how possible a 5% gain is. And even I went on social media this morning and there was a post from a news article saying, it's the Goldilocks year for first home buyers and stuff, which sounds, I think it just fuels even more FOMO into the market for people. So the Kiwi people are constantly fighting this battle of like, am I actually going to be able to afford to do it? Now, I think what the other issue that I could identify happening for these people here, or anyone making $35 an hour, it's not just young people, is that the cost of living has increased and tax rates have not been indexed to inflation, have they? We index them slightly, but not really in line with inflation. So that's, keeping your saving rate in line with house increases becomes very hard to do. Now, fortunately, house prices have been flat in some regions, but it hasn't stopped people from leaving. So then I think for these same people that aren't making a lot, the next issue that they see, or should I say, making $35 isn't making a lot. For some people, it's probably all that they need to get by, and that's fine. But let's look at the people who have got a lot of money, and then there's people who don't feel like they're making a lot. It's probably a better way for me to word this. They may be frustrated by what I'm about to explain to you. So then what I did is I thought, well, if you think about it, the share market returned a solid 15%-ish in 2025 for many S&P investors. That's all you sort of had to do, put some money into the S&P 500, and you probably got a 15% gain. Now, 100K invested, and you've got 115K at the end of the year. Very loose math again. I'm just trying to highlight a scenario here. You didn't have to work to make your $15,000. You had to risk your 100K, so you had to have it to start with. But remember too that the market doesn't always act like this. However, it did in 2024 and in 2023. Of course, money's been losing its value, but if you're younger and you're seeing people that have got money not have to work hard, and they can turn their 100 into 115K, you're probably going to go, shit, I had to bust my ass to get there. Now, of course, the piece we're missing there is what else is the person with the 100K doing? But they're probably still working and doing their thing, but they've been able to save another 15K just by investing their 100,000 and go about their life. Now, if we take that number to $1 million, suddenly the $150,000 for free, let's say, well, it's not really for free because you're taking risks to get it, but you can see what's creating this divide between those who have capital and who don't, but also those who are having to work for it, and those looking at other people that are getting it easy, or or not having to work for it or work as hard, and the way that they see it. Of course they're going to get frustrated and go, what are my solutions? Now, then even if we take risk adverse Randy, which we have a lot of in New Zealand, these are baby boomers who wouldn't be into the stock market, but they love the term deposits. Well, they've had 6% term deposit rates at one stage as well. Let's say they got $400,000 in a term deposit. Now, a reminder, I think there's like over 200 billion bucks worth of money in term deposits. So, it's pretty, some people would have 400 grand in a term deposit. Now, anyway, the scenario being that they've got a 6%, so they got roughly $16,000 after tax, on that interest. So obviously you earn the interest, but you've still got to pay tax on it. So you're left with $16,000 if you invested your 400,000. So they've risked their 400,000, but everyone says, banks are safe and term deposits are really safe. So they've got 16,000 bucks and they haven't had to work for it. They've had to risk their capital in what's said to be a very risk-free investment. So I think what I'm trying to highlight is, of course, young people or anyone without capital gets frustrated watching others making money easily like this whilst they grind hard for the same result. And we all know deep down that our income earning ability is our single biggest asset that we have as individuals. So if you were 25 to 30, what would you do right now? What would your solution be? So I think this is part of why many younger Kiwi people are looking across the ditch and going, okay, they can do the same type of work and I can make a lot more. Now, of course, all costs are relative and those types of things too, but we've seen too many young people go to not try and figure out why are they going, what is it, what's happening for them. And I think we need to start asking some of them as well to find out what it is. But these are sort of two of my musings from speaking to people that have gone, but that also people that are here and don't necessarily want to be here. They want to be somewhere else, but maybe they can't yet. But everybody has a different budget, and you've individually got to look for your solutions too, because I don't like just presenting problems. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, well, like what do you do? And I think young people or people earning $35 an hour are in a position where they've got to make choices. Like, do they earn more? And that is something that I'm always encouraging people to think about. How can you increase your income? So it's overtime, upskilling, better industry, commission-based roles, side income. Like what are you doing to increase your income? You have to start thinking about this in this country. Changing housing structures. It might be flatting, living alone versus living with a partner. It might be staying at home longer. And if that's viable, you've got to actually look at what all of your options are, because you can see at $35 an hour now that we have an index tax rates and things are so expensive, like how can you save and how can you accelerate your savings rate? It probably comes from decreasing your costs, finding ways to do that, and then also increasing your income. You know, maybe reducing big recurring costs or just doing less for a season. You know, for a young person, if they want to go to a gig, you're looking at $200 for a ticket these days, plus Uber, plus a few drinks. If you still want to live your life, you know, you've got people saying to them, oh, live your life and enjoy it and live it up in your 20s. Well, they're going to get to 30, not have much and go, well, that was cool advice, but now I'm pretty far behind. And that's why I think we're seeing so many younger people that are getting going earlier with investing and really tuning into the economy and money, because they're going, well, I can't waste my 20s. I can't play catch up. It's not going to work anymore. So they've got to be thinking about investing in assets where possible, even small, like learning about it, putting consistent amounts in. Some of them are even speculating. And I've even had some messages where people were saying that people are speculating with their money that they've got left over, whether it be crypto or high risk investments or things that they think may generate them a large return, because they don't want 15 grand for the year of work. They want more than that. And then, of course, we're seeing many people move to Australia as well. But you know, the other thing that I touched on earlier, but the importance of KiwiSaver to get the employer match, and when saving for their first home, you know, not many, if you think about it too, but if these people are saving for their first time, not many financial advisors are going to say to them, oh, invest it into volatile or risky stocks, because they're going to say, well, you can't, you know, we don't want you exposed to too much volatility because you need that money for your deposit. So then you've got somebody who's not doing that and they're growing their investments faster versus the person who can't take that risk because they need it for that first home. So I think it's been a very confusing time out there economically and financially for a lot of younger people. But if we're not teaching younger people some of these solutions or thinking about why it is that they're leaving, you know, I think we're going to see more of them that are going to head across the ditch as well. So 2026 will be fascinating to see what does happen in that space. I did a post about this on LinkedIn. If you do want to dig it out, it got 25,000 views, and there's 62 comments on here. Be really interested in your thoughts on, you know, thinking about this. I was flying up the country over the Christmas break, and I was thinking about, okay, what's the math on earning $35 an hour, and sort of what do you need to be thinking about? I might try and do a podcast on it at some stage too and unpack it in a bit more detail. But I'd love to know from you, you know, what it gets you thinking about, and if you think that these two things here, what you actually have after a year's work, and then secondly, what other people have if they're not having to work but they've already got capital. If you could see that maybe creating some of that divide too. And the last piece I'll leave you with, it sort of shows us why someone like Charlie Munger was saying you've got to get to that first $100,000 of a snowball, because once you get that compounding and getting it moving, you've got your money working for you, and you can start to see the real value of that. And that's probably why he's saying, you know, Scrooge and do whatever you need to do, because if you're not buying assets that are growing to combat inflation in an economy and financial system like this, it can start to feel very demoralizing very quickly. And I think that's part of how we've lost so many young people over to Australia chasing a higher income, because that's the only way that they could see that they could do it.